In this session, we are going to discuss about command name, command argument properties which are related to the button components. Okay. We already discussed something about command name and command argument. So command name is nothing but generally in order to differentiate your request from different number of buttons, we make use command name. And command argument means at the time of clicking or something, if we wish to pass some data to your function or to your event, then by using our command argument property, we can sum some data at the time of a button click or something at the time of an event raising or event invoking. Let us see how practically work with command name and command argument properties of a button. And as well as here we have one more event that is nothing but a command event. So we already aware of click event for a button, and command event is nothing but generally I have a 4 buttons. If I want to execute an event, or if I want to invoke an event for 4 buttons, generally for every button I have to write a separate click events. Instead of that, if you are going to use some common event, and whatever the functionality that you want and click event, that we can place with the help of this command event in a single event. Okay, those things also we can understand how we are going to work with this. Okay, so let me open Visual Studio. So just I want to create a new web form. So I can click on web form. So I would like to give a name as button related properties. Just I want to take a table, and just here I want to consider 5 rows and 2 columns. Okay, here what I'm going to do is I want to do arithmetic operations with the help of a button with the help of this command name and command property. Command name and command argument property. So just I want to write I want to pass first number. Similarly, I want to expect a second number from the user, and finally we are going to calculate the result. Okay. Suppose here I would like to take 3 text boxes. Generally, go to toolbox. This is our text box. So just I would like to copy our text box information. Next, I want to take 4 buttons for all arithmetic operations. I wish to take 4 different buttons. Now I want to change IDs of controls. So txt first number. Similarly, first txt second number. Txt result. So for button, my text is add id btn add btn sub. So just text I provide it as a subtract. This here I give name as multiplication. btn multi btn div. Division. Similarly, I want to set tab index. Okay, here we have a tab index. This is by default in 0. So now this I want it as a tab index as 1. Means after 0, when I click on this tab, automatically from first text box it will navigate to here. Next, I want to change this tab index to 2. Similarly for add, I want to make it 3, 4, 5, 6. Now let us check. Suppose if we want to perform addition operations, generally what we will do, by double click this addition we will write. Subtraction by double click on this we will write. So multiplication by double click on this we will write. Like this we can write to 4 different events, right? For each and every button. Now we can eliminate this with the help of command event. Go to properties. Here we have some command event. Okay. Just give name whatever the name you want. So our intention is to perform arithmetic operations. Just I want to give a name as arithmetic operations. Arithmetic operations. Just copy this name. Okay. And as well as double click on this. Automatically you will get one event, that is nothing but arithmetic operations event. Similarly,
Okay.
go to this button, subtract button. Here also paste that command, whatever the name that we used for addition. Just double click on this. So now also we are in arithmetic operations. Next, again come to multiplication. Just to paste this and double click on this. Here also double click on this. You will get this. In this way, for 4 different buttons, we make use of one event, that is nothing but arithmetic operations. Now let us see whether it is coming to this breakpoint or not when we click on this particular thing. When I click on add, it is coming to arithmetic operation. When I click on subtract, it is coming to arithmetic operation. Any button you click, it will hit to arithmetic operations. Okay. So far this was clear, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now whatever I click, that will be hit here. I want to differentiate. So which button is clicking this? From which button I got a request? That these arithmetic operations can know. From where I got a request? From whom I'm going to find. So those things I get to know with the help of a event, with the help of a command name property. So now let us check command name. So in command name, go to the properties of every button. So here we have a command name property. Give the name which shows uniqueness of this control, which shows uniqueness of the button control. So suppose
Okay.
I want to give it as an add. Okay. So here I want to give it as a subtract sub, just multiplication mun div. Like this I provided a command name property. Means by using this command name we can differentiate who was the sender of this request, okay, or who was
Okay.
the originator for this event invoking process. Okay,
Okay.
so now I'm going to arithmetic operations. Here we have a command event args. This is a class. By using this, we can get to know. Suppose if e dot command name equal to add. Okay. If e dot command name equal to add, here we can write whatever the code that you want. Say for example, I want to write this response dot write script alert just here whatever the command that is, so is clicked like that I present, right? So generally else if e dot command name equal to sub, like this I can write. See whatever I wrote response dot whatever the command name that is coming, okay, add is clicked, we got an output like if add is clicked, if the request is from admins we will get an output as add is clicked. If request is from sub means sub is clicked, like that we got an output. Let us see whether our output is coming as per our expectations or not. I click on add button, so I receive add as clicked. I click on division button, I got an result as a div is clicked. So multiplication MUL is clicked, subtract sub is clicked. Like that we can differentiate the request type from each and every button by make use of a command argument,
Command.
command name property. Okay.
Okay.
Now let us do a program. So whatever the program that we want to require here. Okay. So just I want to make an arithmetic operations for this, right? So for this I would like to take three variables. So a, b, and as well as result. So a equal to convert dot. I want to read that information from the text box 1. That is nothing but first text box. txt first number dot text. Now similarly we are reading it from b txt second number dot text. Now for result is not at all required. We'll make it use of with two variables. So now I want to provide the result here. txt result dot text equal to a plus b dot toString. So for subtraction, instead of plus I would like to use minus. For multiplication, here I would like to use this. For division I would like to use this one. Okay, now I'm going to comment all these responses because which is not at all required at this point of time. So you just understood how the flow will be looks like. Now I would like to perform an arithmetic operations. Here I pass two values like 50 and 23. See, When I click on add button, I got a result as an output as 73, right? So
Right.
next subtract, I got an output as 27. So I'm operating with the help of a tab index because I gave a tab index, right? So click on multiplication, now it is highlighted in. So I got an output as 1150. Next I want to make it a division, which is 2. Like this, with a single event, we can perform all our operations which are belonging to 4 different buttons, right? So this is the way how we can use our command name, property and command event. Now let us see how we will work with an argument, command argument. Suppose if we wish to pass some value, so at the time of button invoking process, at the time if we want to pass some value, then we can make use of command argument. So here in command argument, I can pass it as some value like 10. If I want to pass some value as 20, you can pass anything, not only integers. You can pass string data, you can pass anything, that any data, character or data, whatever the data that you want, you can pass. So if I want to pass, you know, 30, here for division I want to pass 40. Okay. So now
Excuse me.
command argument is, see here when you use e dot command argument, this is our command argument. We will get the command argument, whatever the command argument that we have. Dot to string is clicked like this.
What is the E for?
E for our super class object, that is command arguments. All related, like,
Okay.
all the properties related to command are related to command event args. From this E, we are reading
Okay.
command name and command argument.
Okay.
So in this way, so generally, if I want to click on this, if I click on add button, so like 23, 12. If I click on add button, command argument is 10 is clicked. Okay. If I click on subtraction, I got a 20, right? So I passed 20 for the subtraction.
Yeah.
For this 30, for this 40. Like this, at the time of raising an event, or at the time of invoking an event, if we wish to pass some data to the event, then we can make use of a command argument property. Okay. So this is about command name, command argument and command event, which is associated with button related controls. For every button related controls, these are the common properties and that is the common event. Okay.
Okay.
So this is about button related things. Now let us see working with validation controls. So we might have heard many things from, what is the validations, why validations comes to the picture, what are the advantages, all these things we can get to know.
Right.
So generally validation is nothing but before processing or before sending our request to the server, we need to screen whether the data is in correct format or not. Say for example, whenever we are working with an web-based applications, okay, web-based application means too many persons are accessing at same time. We may expect that too many persons are accessing at same time. At that time, server, server resources can't be utilized in a maximum state, because you are accessing from your location, I'm accessing from my location, somebody accessing in some other location. If we have too much of traffic at server level, that is, our application performance will be degraded drastically. In order to avoid that,
Right.
we can share our process, some process to client and some process to the server. Client means, suppose if any request, if we are directly forward to the server, is that is not at all a good practice. We can screen it whether that is a valid request or not. Okay, what was the expectations of this form, what was the user entered. If user entered is incorrect, that we can process at browser level, that is nothing but at client level, and we will generate a response means, then the server resources will be optimized more, and burden will be won't hit it to the server. In this way, we can make use of validation controls. Okay, in ASP.NET, we have a few validation controls. By using this, we can validate any type of data as per the requirements. Okay,
Okay.
we can make use of validation controls. Primary goal is server side burden. It provides category of controls to do validation. They are as follows. First is required field validator. Required field validator. Second is regular expression validator. Third is range validator. Fourth is compare validator. And other is custom validator. And other is validation summary. Validation summary. These are the different types of validation controls which are available in ASP.NET. Okay. Now let us check one by one. Required field validator. It is used to check always non-emptiness of this non-emptiness of the control. Means it is used to check always non-emptiness emptiness of the control. What does it means, say for example, if I have a control, okay, if you are not passing any input information to the particular control, so without passing, if you click on submit button, your button won't hit to the server. Why? Because if you make that event as a that control as a required field validator, then automatically particular control is expecting some data. Okay, particular control is expecting some data. So in order to work with the data, so generally it is always requires, you know, some kind of input information, because we marked that control as a required field validator. Required field validator always, expects some kind of input from the user. If we left that field as a blank, then automatically it raises that validation. So that's the reason we will call it as a non-emptiness of the control. It is always used to check non-emptiness of the control. If the emptiness is there, then it raises particular required field validator. Scenarios where we can use this required field validator means, if we wish to if we wish to mark any field as a mandatory, then then we can make use of required field validator control. Okay, so properties, id as well as text and error message. See, if error message, if it fails, that validation fails, means we want as a
So
user.
these are all the properties, right? Or are these controls?
Properties related to this required field validator I am discussing.
Okay, you'll show the example, right?
Yes, required field validator is nothing but your control. So for your controls you
Okay.
have properties and events. So now I am
Okay.
discussing properties related to required field validator. Error message. Suppose, if user fails to pass some input, then automatically required field validator invokes. At the time we want to display some kind of external message to the end user. So here, whenever we are passing some message to error message, that is displayed to the end user. To the end user. Next, most important properties, control to validate. Control to validate means it is used to accommodate accommodate control ID of which we want to validate. Suppose I have 5 controls. For which control I want to apply this required field validator, that control ID we have to pass with for this property, that is control to validate property. Okay. So for example, I want to I would like to take a new web form and I wish to name it as a validation CXC. I want to take in label of 9 rows. So just here I want to write like enter your name. Just here I want to take one text box. Just I want to change the name, text name. Here for this text box is I want to make it as in like mandatory. Just here I want to take one button. Button submit, btn submit. This is a submit button. Now, so here I want to take one of the validation control for this text box. That is nothing but required field valid. Say for example, I would like to execute this this form. So before going to execute, just I want to implement a click event for this. Just I would like to write some kind of a message, response dot write script. I just write a message like this, button is clicked. So now I want to execute this form. I'm going to click on the submit button. I got this message, right? So I want to restrict to hit to the server if this control is empty. For this region, what was the validation control that we want to use? We want to use required field validator. Just I want to make use of required field validator. This is my required field validator. Just I would like to go to this control. Here we can see the properties which are related to this um, you know required field validator. So here error message I want to make it to star. Okay, or you can make it, if you want to make it star, at bottom of this page you can write all asterisk mark fields are mandatory, like that we can provide it. Or sometimes you can make name is mandatory, you can pass anything, name is mandatory. So now most important property is control to validate. Which control you want to validate? I want to validate txt name, right? So all control names are available here. Just you can browse what are the name that you want. So here we have only one control, only one input control. So button is also control. It doesn't mean that button is a not control, but here it shows a list of all input controls, input taken controls. Means whatever, whenever we are accepting an input, that we can call it as an input controls. So input type of control, so just text name is there. So means this control is going to be validated by this required field validator. So this is idea of the required field validator. If you want to change, you can change ID, RFV name, required field validator name, like that you can provide RFV name. Okay. Now I want to execute this button. I click on submit. So we got something, web forms unlisted validation mode request script manager for jQuery notifications to some kind of error. So this kind of error is for only Visual Studio. After 12 only you will get this error. Okay. If you want to
Okay.
continue with Visual up to like before 12, no error will get, like it will execute. Now whatever like it is asking is whenever we are going to execute validation control, it is asking, like it is expecting some script manager from the user that it is expecting, so that will pass. In order to avoid this kind of errors from 4.5 version, we have to add something in our web.config file. If we add that in our web.config file, that resolves this issue. Okay, so go to web.config file, go to web.config file. We have our configurations section, right? So in our configuration section, we have a system tag, that is one kind of system.web. This one kind of tag. In this we have our root tag is configuration. In configurations we can write one app settings. In that app settings we have to pass something, so that is nothing but add key and value pairs. Okay, this we'll discuss in later, what is key and what is value pairs and when we use all these things. But in order to avoid this, we should write these things. Validation settings, on obtrusive validation mode, value equal to none. So now you got a message, right? Name is mandatory. This is the way how we can resolve our issue with the help of these validations. In this web.config file, we can write this one, app settings, add key equal to validation settings on obtrusive validation mode, value equal to none. If you write this only from 4.5, our validations is going to be executed from our ASP.NET. Okay, now what we have to do is, this is our whenever we click a button, we are going to invoke this event, and we are going to display an result, that is button is clicked. Okay, so now whenever a button is clicked, okay, if a value is passed, if I pass that value, because that is a mandatory field value, then only my server side code will be executed. Otherwise I won't execute my server side code. Now if I pass anything like some text, so now only it will hit to the server and it provides an output. This is the way how our required field validator always checks for a non-emptiness of the string. It won't accept empty. It always accepts something kind of non-empty thing. Okay. Now we'll see what are the different other properties. Field validator. So we already spoke about two important error message and control to validate. This is mandatory, and we have a common things like axis key, back color, border color, all this in CSS, and one more important is display. Display. This property shows how the validator is displayed. By default, it is in static mode. By default, it is in static mode. Okay. we can set to dynamic mode also. This is the dynamic. See, you can find the difference. Generally, I'm going to execute this. Generally, we'll set the dynamic mode for our, Ajax controls. Okay. So for Ajax controls, whenever we are executing our input, so we should pass our, display as a dynamic mode. Like, some kind of flash things we may expect from the Ajax kind of controls. But for this, for normal controls, we can't expect this thing. So whenever we have a dynamic set of controls, then it is the best to use a dynamic as a display mode. Okay, and enable client-side script. So here, this is also one of the most important property for this. Enable client script. Whether to perform validation on the client for other browsers. By default, it is in false. Sorry, it is in true. Means this is executing at a client side. Okay, so for if some other browsers are not supported, so by using this property, if you set this property in all other browsers, our validations will be communicated or processed at client side. Okay, so in this way we can make use of, enable client script. Next, important property here is set focus on error. So this is also one of the most important property. So generally, whenever we are executing a form, if validation is failed, we want to focus on this particular control, right? So in order to maintain that, we have a property called set focus on error. We can make it to true. So wherever we have an issue, like uh, at what place our execution is going to be interrupted or our execution is going to be stopped because of this validation, at that place, that control is going to be highlighted within focus. So that is the use of set focus on error. Set focus on error. It highlights the particular control when validation fails. Next, you can make it to, like, font. If you want to make it red or something, so that we can validation is, tab index is common, tooltip is common. Validation group. This is an important property. This is used to set the group name to which the validation to which the validator, that means control, belongs to. Means, say for example, I have a 10 controls in this page. If I don't want to apply validations for few controls, okay, or if I want to validate you know uh, validations for some of the control, at that point of time we can make use of validation, that validation property, all those things in one group, so that all group will be executed at a same parallel, and other controls won't be executed in same parallel. Like, in radio button we placed all controls in one group, right? Group name means if you make all controls in a single group, means it is always allow us to select only one item among a different number of controls. If you have a 5 radio buttons, it allows us to select only one at a time. Similarly, this validation group also, even we have a multiple number of controls, we specify the common group name, then all those group belongs to a single entity, in which that entity is going to be processed or executed depends upon the condition. For that reason, we make use of validation group. And other is visible width. These are the common controls. So in this way, we can make use of you know validation control, that is nothing but required field validator. Okay, it always checks for the non-emptiness of this thing. If the input is empty, then it always rises. Let us see how we will select for drop down. So just I want to select your qualification. I want to take a drop down control. This is drop down list. Edit items. You can provide whatever the items that you want. Suppose BE or BTech. Tech. So here I want to select your qualification. See, here I want to apply required field validator for this control, right? So generally, now I want to take a required field validator. I want to change the control of this control first, ID of this control, DDL quali, required field validator. I want to change for color to right, display message, that is what error message. Qualification is mandatory. Another thing is, so most important, control to validate. Which control we want to validate? I want to validate DDL qualification. And here one more property is called initial value. This is also an important property. Initial value. Initial value comes to the picture whenever we are dealing with list type of controls like drop down list. Here, say for example, I am executing this one, that is check. I click on submit button, I got some input message, that is text, right? Name is mandate. When I click on this, it hit to the server, because here I am not selecting. This is an initial value, right? Select your qualification is my initial value. Even though this is my initial value, it is going to submit it. So here, if we pass our initial value, then only our item is going to be recognized. text. So copy your initial value and just give that initial value to your validation control. So now, apart from the initial value, it is expecting different value at the time of submitting a button. So now I pass some text here. So when I click on this button, it is expecting qualification is mandatory. So because this is initial value, this is expecting different value than our initial value. So now you can select anything and click on submit. Then only our request will be hit to the server. Okay. Initial value always uses at list type of controls. This type of controls in which it is accepting other than initial values that when we specify was some value as a initial value for a validation control. Okay. In this way, we can make use of a required field validator. Now I want to check, so we will go with an next control, that is nothing but a regular expression validator. See, regular expression validator means, suppose if we want to validate an input, whether that input is correct or not, at that point, at those scenarios, we can make use of a required regular expression validator. Means, say for example, I asked user to enter some input from him. My input is nothing but I want to enter a email ID, or I want to enter a mobile number, okay, or I want to enter a hall ticket number, something. All this we have some patterns, like email ID contains some characters and it requires at the rate symbol, and it requires dot in or dot com or dot something, some kind of domain extensions. This is nothing but one pattern. Suppose if you consider, if you, for your US numbers, one format of a mobile number is there. For India we have 10 digits of 10 digits of numbers are required for a mobile. For any of the SSC hall ticket or something, we have a 8 or 9 digits. So like this is the pattern. So in which our input should be in particular pattern only. Suppose if user is asking to enter a hall ticket number, if user enters instead of hall ticket number, if they enter alphabetical, means that we should validate at at client level, because that is in wrong data. Why we have to forward that wrong data to the server? Again we will get a result as incorrect information from the server. Then why to burden on the server? In order to eliminate that burden, we have to pre-screen the data at our client level with the help of our validation control. Okay. So for that purpose, so whether our input is in correct format or not, for
Okay,
this
can
we
you
can
give me
make use.
2 minutes, please?
Yes, sure,
Hello?
sure.
Yeah, just 2 minutes.
Uh, like in order to format the data, or in order to identify whether our data is in correct format or incorrect format, so that we can make use of this regular expression validator. Okay, this validation control is used to validate whether particular input is following specific pattern or not. Okay, so by using this control, we have to, like we use it to validate whether user given input is following a specific pattern or not. So that thing we can make use of this regular expression validator, and we can ensure that it is following a particular format. If it is not following particular format, then it raises an error prompt for us. Means it doesn't allow us to do further at server level. So it also contains, like common property ID, text, and as well as error message, and control to validate. That is also common for this. And other important is regular expression. This is an important property for this. Means whatever the pattern that is expecting this input control, that we have to specify in this regular expression. So generally I want to take here, so enter your mobile number. Okay, so generally here I would like to take one text box. I want to change the ID of this text box, txt US mobile number. I want to make it as US mobile number. So now I want to take regular expression validator here. So here I want to change for color to red. Regular expression validator. So now I want to go to the properties here. What is that property? That whatever the expression that it is expecting. So that expression that we have to pass it as an input. So that is nothing but validation expression. Okay, here we have some kind of information which are predefined available for us. If you want to validate French phone number, this is the pattern. If you want to validate postal code of French, this is German something. Like we want email address. If you want email address, this is one German phone number. Like this, we have some kind of information. Suppose consider this as a US phone number. So US zip code, all these things that are available. So I want to make to apply this one. Okay. So if user is trying to execute this function, or sorry, this form, without passing a proper regular expression, okay, see, if you encounter this kind of error, which means that control to validate property to regular expression validator cannot be belong. Our control to validate property is not yet set. That we have to set before executing. So here we have a control to validate, right?
Yes.
For this control to validate. This is our control to validate. So what is your input? Your input is txt US mobile number. So just you can pass it. So you can pass some name and qualification, something, and mobile number. So what was the format for the US mobile number that we have to pass? Suppose if we pass some dummy number, it won't accept. We have to follow the format. So you can provide the US mobile number, US phone number format. Okay. May I know how was the format looks like?
It it's 10 digit.
10 digit. Okay, I think 3, 4, 3, 7.
Including one supposed to be 10 digit.
I think we have some kind of characters, right? Something
Yeah.
this one, like this.
Yeah, it starts with 1 and then 3 digits and then 3 and then 4 digits.
Okay, starts with 1 hyphen. Huh? I think hyphen is
Yeah.
there. 3 digits
Yeah. And
hyphen.
then 3.
Again.
And then again 3 and then 4.
Okay.
4 digits after that. Yeah.
It is not accepting. Okay, you can check and you can type what. I think it comes to 11, right? 1 hyphen triple three. Let us check.
Maybe you can remove the 1 because 1 is like only when you're doing from a landline or something.
Yeah, you can remove one. And now it accepts this as a US phone number. So now when you
Okay.
click on this, button is clicked. Like a 3
Okay.
hyphen 3 hyphen 4. Likewise, if you want to validate email ID, we can select an option from there, validation expression, and you
It's your
can
hand.
provide whatever the expression that you want.
My hand. I'm your heart. I love you.
Validation expression. So, and common properties like, enable client side script, all this initial value. Initial value is not required here because we are not, checking for non-emptiness of the control. So these are the common properties which are available for regular expression validator. Now what I'm going to do is, see, I want to validate. So this is my regular expression validator, right? So here, this is my pattern. So here I want to validate, enter your mobile number, Indian mobile number. So for example, this is my requirement, mobile number. Here I want to take one text box. So I make it as txt number. I want to take regular expression validator here for color. You can make it red. So control to validate, so that we have to check. So this control to validate. So our control to validate is txt mobile number and validation expression. There is here, if you observe that all requirements are not available here. Okay. In order to do our own custom, you can click on this custom and write whatever we want. Suppose in order to, if you are expecting 10 digit number, you can write like this /d, which indicates that we are expecting digit. You can write how many number of digits that you are expecting. I'm expecting 10 digits. So for this, that's the reason where I pass it as a 10. Now I click on this. So here I provided invalid, my error message is invalid mobile number. Suppose I'm going to execute this one. Now let us see how our execution process will be. Now I'm going to click on submit button after passing some inputs to the controls. So for this name, some mobile number, just I want to pass 3333 and 44. Say for example I want to pass 9 something. So this, it is displaying as invalid mobile number 936636. Now it reaches to 10 digits, so that it doesn't provides any kind of error for me. So when I click on the submit button, so now it will accept. Suppose if I accept something, if I pass more than 10 digits also, it is displaying that this is an invalid mobile number. Likewise, we can validate our own inputs, so by using regular expression validator. Okay, suppose if that is not available, then we'll go with the customs, right? By using that custom property, we can provide our own pattern. So how we are going to validate? those kind of patterns, like what are the, like, coding techniques that we have to use for creating a pattern, that we will check. This is one of the most important concept in validation controls, writing our own custom pattern. Someone is like asking a requirement like this. So want a 10 digit number which always starts with like only with 789. Okay, this is one kind of information. Or accepts only 4 digits. Okay, all digits are not required to pass as a sequence numbers. This is one kind of thing. Like these things we can, like, we can write whenever we have a knowledge on these validations, framing of our expression itself. Okay, those things we can. In my blog I present how we are going to write and what is the different kind of characters that we are using for the expressions. All these things I provided here, you can check. Okay, generally slash d indicates that that is an, which is accepting any digit. Okay,
In the WhatsApp group, can you just send me the link to the blog?
sure,
I
sure,
don't think I
sure,
have.
sure, sure, I can do
So,
that.
so I'll have it for later on also.
Yes, sure. See, this is regular expression validator, right? So here, whenever we are using slash d, which indicates that this is a digit or character. Okay, if you are using star, which indicates that, suppose if you, for example, if you are using 7 star 8, means you can use 7 multiple times, but 8 for only single time. Star is nothing but 0 or more occurrences. Okay, 7 star 8 means 0 or more, means 7 can be expected at one time or multiple times or 0 time, whatever the time that you want, 0 or more occurrences. So 7778 or only 8 or 778 or 478 or something like that, we can form, we can frame an expression. If you are using star means which indicates that 0 or more occurrences. If you are using plus as an operator means, which means that one or more occurrences of the previous character or sub expression. Star is nothing but 0 or more, and plus is nothing but one or more occurrences. 7 plus 8 means minimum one 7 is required, and maximum you can pass many number of sevens, but not a single 8 in this example, but not a single 8. But here we can use a single 8 also, because it is 0 or more occurrences, but here one or more occurrences. Am I getting you?
Yeah.
Okay. So now if we are using this kind of braces, then we can treat this as a single group. Okay. 78 plus means, which means that one or more occurrence, right? So you can take 78, 78, 78 like that multiple times with a single 78. So, and this is a curly brace, we can pass and like, some kind of input values which ranges minimum value and maximum value. M is your minimum value, N is your maximum value. Suppose here in this example, A curly brace 1 comma 3, which means that you can use A comma double A comma triple A itself. Means maximum you can use 3 years. More than that, you are not supposed to pass more than 3 years in this example. Means here minimum and maximum, we have a minimum value and maximum value. According to that only we can pass our information. Okay, and another is pipe. This is nothing but a split kind of operator. So either of two matches, means either this or that we can take. This act as an or kind of operator. Suppose for example here 8 slash 6 means it matches either 8 or 6, anything that you can take it as a granted. And this is nothing but square brace, means which always shows some kind of range. Suppose if you are passing A to D, means it always accepts the characters in between A to D only. A, B, C, D, up to D only it is accepting. Beyond D it won't accept. So matches one character in range of valid characters. For example, A to C matches A comma B or C, that's it. it won't accept more than C. Okay, and here one more expression which is also curly brace, and this is nothing but one kind of not operator. So whenever we are using this means, except this we can pass anything. Suppose if I'm using not a hyphen c means except a b c we can use any characters. Okay, so matches a character that isn't in the given range. For example, a to b matches any character except a and b. Okay, if we're using that upper like this character which is that except this we can accept any kind of information from the user input. And here this is a dot means any character except new line. For example, here matches where and there. Whenever we are using any character, so whenever we are using dot as a character, it takes anything as an input except a new line. New line means a slash n. Except this, it will consider any character has to be accepted for this kind of input. Okay, slash s means any white space character such as it accepts a tab or space. Whenever we are using tab key, it won't enters anything, right? So at that time, whenever we are using space, it also won't enter anything. This kind of requirement, if we passed, if our input always contains one tab key or one space, then at that point of time we can make use of a slash small s and a slash capital S. Any non-white space characters means you can pass digits, numbers, special characters, anything that you can pass in this capital S. If it is a small d means we already discussed that it is a digits. If it is a capital D means which doesn't belongs to a digit. Anything which is not a digit, like you can take it as a characters and as well as a special characters and symbols we can take if you are using a slash capital D and a slash small w, any word character that is nothing but letter or number or underscore, anything that we can make use of a small w. If it is a capital W means we can take a letter, number or underscore. We can take it as a word itself. That generally it is not at all a word because letter, number or underscore comes under this group. See, by using this only we can form our own regular expression characters based upon the requirement. So in this here I provided some commonly used regular expressions. Okay, this is one of the format for email addresses. Generally, whenever we are going to sign up a form, here it is expecting some, it is expecting to pass some password. So password contains some kind of rules. Okay, password which always contains a maximum of 10, 10 characters, minimum of 4 characters, and the password always starts with only characters or special characters, anything. This kind of information that I provided here, like a email address format like this, password format like this, normal password. If it is a specific password means if your password is like minimum of 4 characters and maximum of 10 characters, then we can pass this as a pattern. Suppose if it is an advanced password means if your password always starts with a small a to z or capital A to z and the range is always from 3 to 9 characters, then we can make use of this pattern. If it is an advanced password, like any number always starts with small a to z, capital A to z, and any number of single word, it always contains single minimum one digit and minimum of one word, then this is the format. So this is if you are using slash w means star means zero or more occurrences. If you are using plus means one or more occurrences. If it is a small w means it is a word. If it is small d means it is a digit. Okay, so likewise we can frame our own commonly used regular expressions according to our requirement. If we know these things, so that we are able to attempt what the user is expecting or what a client is expecting out of these regular expressions. Okay, you can follow these two links and you can try to practice and you can make your own requirement and you can try to practice it.
But he didn't send me the permissions yet.
Yes, yes. I spoke to him actually. Like we'll try from your system end. So once we end up this session, okay. But there is no such permissions is there from their end. So he asked me to try one more time. If not, then they are going to provide their credentials. So by using the credentials, we can download from the Google Drive. Like that,
Okay.
he told me. So we'll try. Like I will try once end of the session from your mission. So if it is not available, means then we'll get the credentials from him and try to log in and we'll download.
Okay.
Okay. So this is about regular expressions. Okay. So shall we proceed for further or something? Shall we stop?
You want to? It's up to you.
Okay, you are okay, right?
Yeah, I'm okay. We
Okay,
can do till 11.
okay. Means more
Okay.
20 minutes, right?
Yeah,
More
yeah.
23 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
one topic you can do more,
Yes,
no?
yes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. This is about our regular expression. Okay. Suppose if you want to deal with the range. Suppose in order to fill a form, we want to set this is the minimum range and this is the maximum range. So for example, I am applying for one position. So my academics requires minimum 70%. Okay, if that is a requirement, so then I can make use of range validator, or at the time of sign up of a form, minimum age should be this and maximum age should be this. Like this, we have some kind of conditions, right? In order to fulfill those kind of requirement, we can make use of a range validator. This control is used to validate validate minimum and maximum value for a particular input control. Okay, scenario in which we use this can be used at whenever we are filling a form in which if we want to pass age as an input, then here minimum and max age are required. At this kind of scenarios, we can use. And one more scenario like percentage, max and minimum percentage. Okay, these are the scenarios where range validator will be used in our applications. Let us see what are the properties associated with this range validator. ID, text, error message, control to validate. These are the common properties. Here we have a different property. We don't have any expression. Let us see. Suppose here you enter your BTech percentage. Say for example, I want to take one text box here. I want to change the ID txt BTech percentage BTech percentage, and here I want to take a range validator. This is my range validator, right? So basically common property, first you have to set control to validate to btech per. So under error message, suppose in order to take an entries from the aspects, I want to set minimum percentage is 70 and maximum percentage is 100. Like that I want to set. Okay. So here we have a two values, maximum value and minimum value. Okay, maximum value is 100, minimum value is 70. Okay, in error message we can specify the same thing. Okay, minimum percentage required is 70 and maximum percentage is 100. Like that we can specify. Okay, now I want to change for color. I want to make it to red. So just now I'm going to pass some kind of input to this form. And we have one more property, important property for this, that also we'll see. Maximum value 100 cannot be less than, and what is it? The maximum, maximum value 100 and cannot be less than the minimum. Here what it is coming is, so generally before going to that we have to set one more property. That property is nothing but type. Here we have, that is nothing but integer type. Okay, so now I'm going to execute this one. uh, I'm getting this information, so just I want to validate this. See, when I click on this button, it is submitting to the user because these two are required and these rest of three are non. We didn't make it as a required. We just make it as whenever we pass an input, then only it will validate. Otherwise, it won't validate. Okay. So if it is a required field, so required field always checks the non-emptiness. If it is a non-emptiness is there, then it allows us to, it doesn't allows us to hit our information to the server. So that's the reason when I click on submit, so it is clicked because we filled required field validators. So for regular expression validator, whenever we fill the field, then only it will validate whether a given input is correct input or not. Okay, so whenever I pass 23 as my percentage, then it is showing that minimum percentage is 70 and maximum is, suppose if I pass 70, okay. If I pass 700, so then it shows a prompt. So it won't allows us to hit to the server because this is exceeding my range. Like this you can pass, like I can pass 88 and then I click on this button and then only it is allows us to do. Okay, this is minimum value and that is maximum value and other is type. It is expecting type of data that we are validating in this form. That is, it allows us to take int, string, double, decimal, etc. This type of information we can take. Okay, suppose if you want to validate a string, say for example your string contains a minimum of 7 characters. Okay, so then also you can provide that minimum length is 7, maximum length is, like that you can provide, means minimum value is this and maximum value is. These are the types. If you take a string, then it always checks for the length, integer, double, date, currency, all these things will, like suppose if you entered generally if you want to order something, So there you have some minimum order, right? Minimum order of minimum of 1000 rupees, maximum of 10,000 rupees. Like that we have some kind of validations. Those validations we can achieve with currency, okay, and as well as with the number also, integer also we can achieve. And if you have date, minimum date and maximum date. So date of birth, so minimum date is always starts with this year, and maximum date is always ends with this year. Like this we can provide some kind of minimum value range and maximum value range, and then thereby we can make use of this range validator in our applications. Okay, this is about our range validator. Okay, and other is custom validator. This is one of the most important validator, in which this validator is going to be raised both at server level and client level. Okay, custom validator, these things we'll discuss in next class. Custom as well as validation summary, custom validator and validation summary.
Okay.
Okay, so